سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم. وقل رب زدني علما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين وإن كنتم جنبا فاطهروا وإن كنتم مرضى على سفر أو جاء أحد منكم من الغائط أو لمستم النساء فلم تجدوا ماء فتيمموا صعيدا طيبا فامسحوا بوجوهكم وأيديكم منه ما يريد الله ليجعل عليكم من حرج ولكن يريد ليطهركم وليتم نعمته عليكم لعلكم تشكرون. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. So here we have mentioned the fara'id, or the basic essentials of wudu yesterday, and we're going to talk about tayammum with a little bit more detail today. Before we do that, we forgot to mention a couple of things that are very critical regarding the marriage between the Muslims and the non-Muslims. Number one, that we mentioned that we want to make this very clear, that the marriage of women who are other than Christians and Jews, this is not acceptable at all, period. And even those who claim to be Christians or Jews, if they have belief in those books, and they have belief that they have belief in Allah, they believe there is a creator, they believe in the prophets that were sent, in the books that were sent to them. Otherwise, that's not. Now, the other way around is absolutely unacceptable. The marriage of a Muslim woman to a non-Muslim man, whether he's Jew, Christian, or whatever he is totally unacceptable. لا هن حل لهم ولا هم يحلون لهن. These women are not halal for them, and they're not halal for them. The non-Muslim men, they're not halal for them. So there's no way whatsoever, and this has been happening. In fact, there are some very high-profile Muslim women here in the United States that are very openly married to non-Muslim men, which is quite an atrocity. So that's not to be done. Because also we can look at the wisdom behind that in the original scheme of things, where men are on the hierarchy of the family structure, they are the head of the family. So it's expected that the people under the head of the family are going to follow suit with the head, not vice versa. However, that's happening these days. So it's expected, and in normal circumstances in an Islamic society, generally these Christian or Jewish women would ultimately accept Islam. Now, if it's the other way around, it's going to be the other way around. If the Muslim woman is in the wedlock with a non-Muslim man, then probably she is going to ultimately revert and ultimately apostate towards his religion. So that's totally out of the question. Also, the Muslim, a fellow who, for example, the Muslim woman, we have to be careful about this also, especially those who have daughters who are coming of marriage age, etc. We need to be looking at this, that we have Muslim young men, according to census, but actually they also have no real belief, just like the Christians and Jews who have no real belief in their religion. They were born into the club, so to speak. So we have Muslims also, quote-unquote Muslims by name, but there is no practice. And if you ask them, do you really believe? Well, we don't know. Our parents, our grandfathers. So we should be very careful about that, particularly the women, because the women, as I said, they're going to go into that environment and they're going to be highly influenced, and so we want to ensure that our ladies, particularly our young women who are marrying into families, they are marrying to individuals and families where there's a conducive environment of deen. Okay, that said, let's move on to tayammum. Now, tayammum, so that I don't forget particulars. And since people don't generally know much about these ahkam, so number one is it's mentioned here that tayammum is basically using the earth, or using what we call sa'id. It's mentioned in the Quran, sa'idan tayyiban. Sa'id in the Arabic language means something which is on the surface of the earth. So does that mean it has to be the earth itself, turab? You know, in other words, dirt, soil. That's the opinion of Imam Shafi'i radiallahu anhu. Other fuqaha, the Hanafi stance also, is that anything which comes from the, what we call the genus of the earth, the jins al-ard. So it could be dust, it could be gypsum, it could be any type of material that actually is part and parcel of the earth itself. But there must be something of that nature. It has to be, and that is going to be, it will stand in lieu of water when water is not available. So that means water is not available. You don't find water. So what does that mean? So your apartment or your house, you don't have water. Okay, I'll go ahead and make tayammum. No, next door they have water. Or down the street there's water. Or you can purchase water even. You purchase water to drink, so what about for your hereafter? So if water is available, this is not going to be permissible. So basically it's a provision for the people who are in journey and they're in the middle of nowhere and there's no water, particularly in the Arabian desert or places where there's no water. So, and you don't expect to find water. So in that case, it would be permissible. If you think that you're going to find water later on, for example, you're traveling and okay, down the road there's a gas station or there's a village or something, and you have it's well expected that you will find water. So now it won't be permissible to make tayammum because you have high expectations of finding water. If you don't have expectations, okay, fine, go ahead. And even if you find water after that, that salat that you have performed, it will be okay, even within the time. However, once the traveler finds water, that tayammum that he has performed, it's broken. And that takes us to what breaks tayammum. The same things that break the wudu, they also break the tayammum. And this is the stance of most of the fuqaha. Some of the fuqaha have the opinion that it is what we call a tahara dhururiya. So to the extent that it is necessary, so I have to perform my salat, so I make tayammum, after I perform that salat, it's over with. But the Hanafi stance and other fuqaha, they see it as what we call a khalaf. It is the substitute for water, so it stands in lieu of water in the same way that water. So until you break your wudu by natural means, it will stand intact. Or with the addition that you find water, then obviously now that wudu is going to come to an end. Also, if you are sick, and as I mentioned also, a sickness which water is going to negatively impact it. For example, Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As was just after accepting Islam, and he was considered one of the most intelligent and very brilliant of the Arabs, even in Jahiliyyah. And as a result of that, he was used as an ambassador for Quraysh to the various places, Persia and Rome, etc. So Nabi alayhi salatu immediately gave him responsibility of being the emir of the armies or the contingents that were sent out in the path of Allah. So it was a very cold night, and he has just become a Muslim, and so now he has very experienced an old Sahaba with him, and so rather than performing wudu, he performs tayammum. And not only that, he insists on leading the prayers. So they say, what's this? No wudu, and he's leading the prayers. However, they didn't fight, and they didn't have They said, okay. When they got back to the Prophet ﷺ, they informed him that, yeah, Rasulullah, he did this and this. So Rasulullah asked him, so Sayyidina Amr, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, don't kill yourselves. So it was such a freezing night that he actually had a wet dream, and he had to perform a ghusl. But doing so, he had fear that it was a threat to his life. So if life is threatened, or we have some sort of sickness which water is going to severely impact, then, as they say, that it might be detrimental, or it might extend the sickness into a longer period, then in that case it's okay. So that's basically, and then how it's performed: you take your hands with your fingers spread and you tap the earth. So you can find dust or sand or whatever the case may be, and if in the Shafi opinion it has to be dirt, so you have to really actually find dirt. And then you will shake off the extra, and then you will, all the places that water has to reach, so also the dust should also reach those places in the face. So that's one tap, and then one totally covering of the face, and then a second tap. And most of the fuqaha are of the opinion that it will be the entire arm, just as it is in wudu, up and including the elbows, the back side, and then the front side as well, making sure that you cover all the back and all the front as well. Okay? And similarly the other side. Some of the fuqaha are of the opinion, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmatullahi is of the opinion that the two hands, there are riwayats that point to both of these, but most of the fuqaha are of the opinion that the same places that are required in the washing of water are required in tayammum. And we have a principle in fiqh which all the fuqaha agree on, and that is al-khuruj min al-khilaf. So if we can do our ibadat in such a way that nobody has an objection. So if I wipe only the hands, there are those who would object. If I do the entirety, nobody's going to have a problem with that. So that would be a safer course of action. So that's basically the rules and regulations of tayammum and its performance. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. And this is a specific virtue of this ummah, by the way. Other ummahs did not have this sort of prerogative. Similarly, the entire earth has been made, as the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, masjidan wa tahuran. So the entire earth we can offer our prayers, and the earth is also a means of tahara when we don't have water. And this is peculiar to this ummah, the speciality of this ummah. So may Allah make us grateful servants. Ameen.